Hi everybody, my name is Ljubo and you're listening to the podcast Ratio Talks. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with one of our guests from this year's Ratio Forum in June, a psychologist, best-selling author and all-around fantastic human being, Pol Blum. Paul is a professor at both Yale and the University of Toronto, and his work explores the curious ways our minds bend the rules. Why we're drawn to mischief, why we sometimes seek our discomfort, and what makes deviance so oddly satisfying. You might know Paul from some of his books as well, probably his most prominent one, at least from my perspective, Against Empathy. Also How Pleasure Works, or his latest one, Psych, The Story of the Human Mind. In most of those, he wades through the swamp that is human behavior, which is oddly satisfying for me. It will not be an exaggeration to say that Paul has been on my lists for easily more than 7 years now. I've read most of his books, I've listened to most of his podcasts, I have actively stalked him online, I've collected trash from his garbage bin, and, just normal human behavior. So yeah, anyway, you can imagine I've been wanting to do this discussion with him from day one. And of course, when you have this on the back of your mind, it's always a disaster. So I think I've butchered most of the conversation out of pure anxiety and eagerness. Nonetheless, this was a conversation I greatly enjoyed. And he was a gracious enough guest to humor me. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And give us some feedback afterwards. So, Paul, you've been here for about 24 hours now in Sofia, in Bulgaria, after I've been badgering you for about 7 years. How do you feel, given that I've basically threatened you in order for you to come to Bulgaria?
I should have listened. Years ago. I'm loving the place. I am suffering through jet lag, yes. But all the alcohol you gave me last night helped. And I've been walking around the town. It's beautiful. People seem nice. The food I've had is great, and weather's good. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, so far so good. Well, just so you know, I mean, the alcohol will continue to be available throughout your stay, so you need to navigate this very wisely.
Well, you're an excellent host.
Thank you, man. I've actually some of my favorite podcasts in the last 5 or 10 years. Some of them are with you. In fact, this will not be one of them, just so you know.
Let's lower expectations right now.
But yes, just putting it out there. And one of the reasons is, for example, some of the ones you did with David Tamler in Very Bad Wizards, some of them are really cool in the direction that it uses a narrative. It could be like a story from like a series or a movie. Maybe you can use a book as well. And it bases some ethical problems, or in general some kind of an issue, and it's grounded in somebody else's experience, which is really cool. I mean, I've always had the issue of talking about an abstract concept without grounding it in somebody else's experience.
I think the very best movies and TV shows are themselves works of philosophy. They present ideas and explore them in a way that's sort of vivid and memorable and interesting. And there's so many examples of this. The classic one is The Matrix, about the idea of what's real and what's artificial. One of my favorites is Her. From about 15 years ago, about AI companions, and I find it remarkably good at anticipating the situation we're in now.
Absolutely.
With David Tamler, we did a series on the television show Severance, which is fascinating about personal identity. We've also talked at one point about Christopher Nolan films like Memento and Prestige, which also work on themes of memory and identity. So, if someone is philosophically interested, you send them to Plato and Socrates and modern philosophers like Derek Parfit and Martha Nussbaum, but you also send them to the movies.
Definitely. And actually, Severance is a really interesting choice, as we've basically been doing podcasts in parallel. We've been doing both on the first season and on the second season in Ratio as well. And it's a really rich series, and it's interesting how much you can actually get away with when you have such a rich concept of the severance procedure as well.
Yeah.
So it's really top content. So if you have to pick something from your field right now, something that you're working on, and tie it to something that's within the movie realm or like books, etc., what would you say would be some kind of a crossover and something would be a good example of what you're interested in right now?
That's such a good question. So one answer I already gave, which I'm becoming very interested in AI companions and how we're going to deal with them. And I'm particularly worried about the addictive properties that they might have. You know, somebody who is incredibly intelligent, has all the time in the world for you, has no competing priorities, and tells you that you're funny and smart and sexy. Irresistible.
And doesn't get annoyed with you.
Never gets annoyed. Never says like, yeah, that's a good story. Hey, I got a better story now, and then tells your own story. You know, and the perfect podcast host, and what that will do. But I'll also tell you about what strikes me as bad examples. So I'm very interested in moral psychology, our sense of good and evil, right and wrong. And I think too many movies and TV shows and too much media in general present evil as if it's this mysterious, crazy force that's beyond the realm of the natural, something which normal people don't have, you know. So, like, I love Silence of the Lambs. And Anthony Hopkins playing Hannibal Lecter, you know, the cannibal psychiatrist, incredibly charming and suave. But it's not a good example of anything. Really bad people are not like that. And
unfortunately.
Yes, they're never quite as suave and cool.
Oh, like Mads Mikkelsen in the series, basically, where he's playing also
the same
Hannibal.
The same character, an extra sort of super European style. Also that's serious. I had to keep quitting it because it got so gross sometimes. Yeah. And then I would go back to it and everything.
But it's always aestheticized by. I mean, it is gross, but they make it aesthetic in a way. It's so macabre, but also really fucking sexy. You know, you have Mads Mikkelsen going like, yes, well, I'll just eat you, I guess.
I think you just got a thing for the guy. Yeah, and honestly, who doesn't?
Yes.
But yes, it is beautiful, and in fact, I mean, it raises another question, which I think we're both interested in, which is the nature of what we like and what we like to see. So we could talk about the portrayal of evil in Hannibal. But also the question is, why do we watch it? Why are we fascinated by it? Why are we drawn towards evil characters like Hannibal Lecter? There's, you know, and I think that's an interesting question we don't quite know the answer to.
Don't you think it's at least related to maybe the transgression that's going on with the evilness of villains and maybe the competence that's also related to them? I mean, they look really on top of their game, and basically because they're so on top of their game, they're able to do stuff that's not allowed. Yeah, not that it should be, but it's essentially the amount of agency that they have seems like they're on another level.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to what you're saying. You know, you probably wouldn't want to watch a TV show or movie about some drunk belligerent schmuck who beats up people in bars, or about a pedophile who preys on his children. That's not. I don't want to see that. I want to see the jewel thief. I want to see the spy, the assassin, and Day of the Jackal. The new TV remake. Eddie Redmayne plays, you know, an extremely attractive, extremely competent assassin, and we want him to win. Even Hannibal Lecter, we want him to escape at some point. Even
invested in.
And I think there is a fantasy, which is, you know, you and I are both these decent, normal people to varying extents, decent to varying extents. But, you know, what if we didn't have to be? What if we get whatever we want? Yeah. What if people were honestly afraid of us because we are so deadly and so competent and everything? And in some way, you say, well, I don't want to be that kind of person. I don't want to kill innocent people. I don't want to, you know, be an assassin. But it's kind of a nice fantasy to think you could be.
Yeah, there's a specific kind of freedom in this, I guess. It really shows the potentialities of what you could be obviously in a fantasy world where you can achieve any of those things. I guess it's maybe the same effect where you are interested in heroes and superheroes and those kinds of, crazy stuff, people flying laser beams out of their whatever orifices.
I like the idea of freedom. I think you're putting it nicely. So, we all have financial constraints. It'd be nice to be free of them. To buy whatever we want. We have the constraints of our physical bodies. It'd be nice to be incredibly strong, be able to fly, shoot lasers out of our eyes and all that stuff. What we also have a sort of moral constraint where there's all sorts of things I can't do because I'm not an asshole, because I'm not a terrible person. And it's not inconsistent to say, yeah, that's the way I want it to be, but let me fantasize about what would it be like if I wasn't that way. Now, these always have their limits. I become very interested in what makes for a good movie villain or good movie hero. Okay. And so, for instance, despite Hannibal in the movies, in the book, in the TV show, is in some way truly a despicable character. He really kills innocent people, but he does not kill children. He does not. There's never sexual assault, and there's a certain, for the most part, not always, his victims deserve it in some ways, that they're themselves bad people. And I think if it got too heavy duty, if he would abduct 5-year-old children, that's too much. I don't want to see it. I don't want to fantasize about being it. But killing adults who are themselves killers, that I could go for.
That's interesting, because I can imagine even worse villains. I mean, off the top of my head, maybe they wouldn't be as likable. But I can imagine something like this working. I mean, it depends on the narrative, doesn't it? I mean, it depends whether the character itself is structured in a way that could be relatable and then goes... I mean, you have this in Star Wars. Basically, you have Darth Vader, who becomes Darth Vader after killing a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
I still enjoy watching Darth Vader.
That's a good point.
So I think it's about how it's structured. It's what's the character building, because you have a lot of context, especially with the shitty movies.
And I would I'll just add that there, I remember the character does kill these kids, but then he becomes incredibly remorseful of it, saying, the younglings. There's this great line which people make fun of. Yeah. Imagine he liked it. Imagine he got off on it. Yeah, I think people would say, "Boy, that's the last Star Wars movie." I'm saying, what the hell happened?
Jesus,
I got to tell you, I don't like Star Wars. I saw the original. I'm that old. I saw the original. It was fine. It just doesn't speak to me. I'm a Star Trek guy.
Yeah, I can see why. But it has.
What about you? You got to choose which one. Which universe would you choose?
I don't think I'd choose either. I mean, I enjoy Star Trek a bit more, but I like a huge amount of aesthetic from Star Wars. But if I had to choose, I'd go for Battlestar Galactica, I guess.
Go for what?
Battlestar Galactica. If I have to go for the
original or the remake?
The remake is good. I like the remake.
I like the remake too.
And it has it's maybe a bit over the top with the space drama, but it feels, especially the soundtrack was amazing with Ben McCreary.
Yes, good taste, good taste. I remember they one of the changes I kind of like was in the original Starbuck was this incredibly handsome man. I forget who the actor playing it, and then they changed it to an incredibly beautiful woman.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's a top quality change. I highly approve of the results.
Yeah, that's the feminist in you speaking.
Yes, I am, if anything, a feminist. But if we have to go back to the concept of villains and evil, etc., I actually had a conversation with Stoyan, my co-host in Vox Nihili, where we were talking about True Detective. And evil in True Detective, and it's really problematic kind of story, because I love True Detective. I've seen it.
Do you love all the seasons of True Detective? Because they come under one name, but it just as well
different. Well, I mean, I guess the second one, which was with Vince Vaughn, with the desert, etc. I really enjoyed it as well. It was an absolutely different series, but I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
The third one, not so much. It just felt a bit disjointed in the sense that, it's happening in the past, but also in the present. And, it's working with, I guess, with dementia. I don't, it didn't strike me as interesting. The fourth one, I think, was a shit show.
That's the Jodie Foster one?
Yeah.
Oh, unwatchable. Unwatchable. Just the plot made no sense.
Yeah.
It was boring. It was some parts of it were poor. Parts of it actually were well shot. Parts of it were pretty, but shit show is a good summary. But, and I assume you're talking about this, season one was really, really good. Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And all this some of it is like, I think, unintentionally funny to Matthew McConaughey talking about the square in a circle and this sort of nihilist. But the portrayal of evil there was the sort of portrayal I don't really like, which was connected to magic, connected to forces beyond our control.
I don't think it was.
Remind me how it ended.
It ended a bit ambiguously. It ended, spoilers. You have Matthew McConaughey's Rust getting out of the hospital, and they managed to get the guy, but he was shot, Rust, and he was looking at the night sky. It was a positive take on that good prevails in a weird way.
Yeah.
The stars and the darkness essentially give that contrast, and that was it was okay. My take is also a positive take on the endings. Tuyan's take is a negative take on the endings. So it's we have an argument there. But back to what you mentioned, whether it's a supernatural situation. I don't think it was. I think
so. In the end, all of the magic stuff was just shown to be bullshit. It wasn't really. It was just some psycho guy.
Yeah, and it was mostly like the narratives that Rust enjoyed, and the whole, time is a flat circle, and the king in yellow, and the whole fucking thing. It aestheticized the whole thing, but I think it could be used as, how should I say it, as an analogy to the way that humanity is in general. I mean, it has the potential of evil and potential of cruelty, etc., and the option for redemption and for like a bright spot to go towards in time. And so it didn't feel like anything supernatural was required. You just need to go back to what people were able to do and trust that this will be fine in the end, in a way.
Fair enough. Season 4 then has supernatural stuff. Dead bodies rising, dead people coming back, and...
No, the ending was explained. It was just a really shitty explanation.
Yeah, I didn't buy it. It was just all tossed together.
I think if you stop watching before the ending, you're better off.
It is possible that I'm better off, and I still hated it. I'm not sure I finished it. I will say something about season 1 now that I'm thinking about it, which is the portrayal of the character, particularly Woody Harrelson's character, who is wonderful, because in some ways he's an awful guy. Mm-hmm. He cheats on his wife. But at the same time he's jealous that his mistress sleeps with another guy. He gets extreme, and then his wife sleeps with his partner Russ to get back at him. And he's an awful guy in so many ways, and selfish, and a horn dog, but sympathetic. And as sometimes happens in fiction, he grows, and then the older the older Woody is a lot nicer a guy, and kind of calmed down a bit, becomes a better father.
But doesn't this, again, strike you as exactly how people work? I mean, we're not one-dimensional, two-dimensional, we're polydimensional. And we contain the multitudes that both could be appealing or disgusting or immoral, etc. And as long as the person is alive, he also has the potential of either redemption or doing something amazing or something horrible. The potential is always there.
Is this a Christian podcast? I know you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And In fact, people talk about dehumanization when you think people as less than human. Yeah. And the group I think we dehumanize the most are bad people, villains. Because you say, this guy's a racist. So when he's with his kids, he's a racist with his kids guy. And when he eats his oatmeal, he's a racist oatmeal eater.
Taking a racist shit.
Exactly. And really people are complicated. The worst people in the world could find genuine love and care for some people. And also most of the bad people don't themselves think that they're bad. Mm-hmm. They're not, there's sort of, a fantasy where evil people are rubbing their palms together saying, I'm evil, let's do some more evil. And no, most evil people are just like us. They think, I'm a good guy. Maybe I do some bad stuff, but, just because I'm forced to, because circumstances I'm in, I do bad stuff so good stuff happens. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a moral relativist. I'm not a moral nihilist. I think that there are people in the world who do really awful shit. And the fact that they don't think that they're doing it is important from a psychological point of view, but doesn't take away from the fact that they're doing awful things. Then there's people like me, and just like the bad people, we think we're doing the right things, but we happen to be correct. And that makes a difference.
I guess I am more of a moral relativist. I don't think there's an idea of absolute evil as a, I can gather like 100 people and we can judge somebody as evil. Mm-hmm. We can sit down and say Kim Jong-il is evil, or whoever, that Putin is evil.
Yeah.
And it would be based on some of his actions, etc. But, I mean, as you said, those narratives change depending on the perspective, not only the personal perspective of the perpetrator of said evil things, but maybe also on the context and also on the type of social dynamics he's immersed in right now. So we're judging based on like a westernized culture that some stuff is evil. Let's say torturing a dog is evil because we can see that the dog feels pain. We can see that, sure, but I mean, it's that line of thinking is like a specific kind of construct. You can imagine a culture in which torturing a dog is not only good, it's necessary. It's in fact, you have to do it. Otherwise, you're not a quality participant in that society because of a series of reasons. So I have an issue with those labels. I am aware that all we do is a different set of labels for different things, but evil in that sense has allegedly some objectivity to it, which I don't think it exists. Even like the most Nazi, I don't think was evil.
Well, when I say I reject moral nihilism, moral relativism, it's compatible with what you're saying. I don't think there's like pure evil. And I think even the worst Nazi probably thought he was a good guy. I agree with all of that. And I also agree there's cultural differences. But I think, first, the cultural differences have their limits. I think in every society you have to keep promises. You shouldn't torment people for no reason. You should share under certain circumstances. You should reciprocate. I think there's a moral universal, just as a matter of empirical fact, that some of them are wired up into our brains. Some of them even show up in non-human primates. But more than that, I guess I'm enough of a utilitarian where I think that you judge actions based on the good and bad they do, how they affect people's lives. And for me, I'm very comfortable saying, you tell me there's a society where they torture dogs for fun. Okay, I could buy that. Maybe they do. They're doing it wrong. They should stop. Now, I'm not saying that they know they're doing something wrong. They probably feel just as good as me who had meatballs for lunch, and I should probably stop doing that too for moral reasons. Yeah. But to be a moral realist as I am, and I think in your heart you must be too, is just to accept that there's some good answers and bad answers to moral questions. And to allow, just as a culture could get the science wrong, Like if there's some culture in the middle of nowhere and they believe that there are no stars in the sky, those are little fire, those are little, there's a black fabric and little holes punched in, pinpricks through it. And you could respect them. You say, oh, this is great. I don't want to say anything bad about them. But they're kind of wrong. They're just wrong. Yeah. And same for the dog torturers. They're not bad people. They found themselves in a wrong belief.
Okay, so before coming back to the evil thing, so let me do a sidestep. So you're mostly on the same page with, let's say, the moral landscape, Sam Harris's idea that you could have objective morality. That's what I'm getting from what you're saying. So you can imagine ways in which we can, I guess, put weights on specific actions. You can imagine what's good and what's bad, and it's objective. It's not a case of, as you said, if we find a society that believes some bullshit and tortures dogs, and maybe you should stop. So if it's objective, how can we measure this objectivity?
So first, I disagree with Sam over on the margins of the moral landscape. He seems to think that this is an uncontroversial view, and he doesn't take into account there are other moral philosophies besides utilitarianism. Also, I think there's a little bit of a clash. Now I'm going off on Sam Harris. We've done Sam's a friend.
Let's shit on Sam Harris.
No. Sam's a friend, and I guess your podcast competition.
Yeah. Not in this lifetime.
But there's some tension between his view and his view on religion, because the moral landscape says you judge an act based on what it does to people, makes them happy or sad. It's totally possible that religious belief, on balance, makes the world better. And if so, then Sam's being kind of a dick, arguing against it. It's an empirical question. But that brings that's your question is going, how do we tell? And it's often hard. It's often easy. You go around and you kick a puppy. And I said, man, why'd you do that? That's a shitty thing to do. What's wrong with you? And he said, well, how do you know what I did was bad? I said, well, the puppy was having a perfectly good time. Now the puppy is yelping all hurt. You made the world worse. Yeah. Now, who's to know the long-term consequences of what you did? But still, in the short term, you made the world worse. All of a sudden, when I leave this podcast, you give me a fine gift, and I'm so happy. You made the world better.
That's not going to happen, but
I think I'm waiting for the good podcast swag. But those are the easy cases. So you and I will argue. Smart people argue. So should how much support should the U.S. give to Ukraine? Should there be capital punishment? Should there be diversity programs where you promote people based in part on race? And people could say, well, I say yes, tolerance, it makes the world better, and you say no, it makes the world worse. And we both accept the moral landscape view, and we just don't know. And I think one of the positive features of being a utilitarian in that sense, where you say actions have consequences, you judge an action by its consequence, you got to figure out the consequence, is it sets up a situation where if we are people of good faith, we'll say, well, let's try to find out. Let's try to find out whether it's better to raise taxes or lower them. It's better to have tariffs or not. And I think that's the way to solve moral questions. At the same time, maybe for some of them, we'll never know.
But this is essentially still an investigation within a utilitarian framework.
Yes,
it still requires you to think about actions, events, and consequences. So, I mean, when you said that, for example, Sam Harris, not Ham Harris, is ignoring other views of how we should analyze the moral landscape that's not utilitarian. I mean, what would you say is like a, I don't know, like a something close enough to utilitarianism that addresses some of your issues with it?
Well, so the big competition comes under different names, roughly deontology. The idea is that there's sort of these general principles that we should adhere to, even putting aside the consequences. So I'll tell you an example which has always struck me, which is I am very anti-torture. I think torture is grotesque.
We will not be doing torture in the next few days. Yes,
but torture by alcohol poisoning is the serious word. But
not promising there.
But then somebody could come at me, a utilitarian, and say, "You're not very consistent, man. Because what if you torture some innocent people, and as a result of this, the world becomes a better place?" And it's not hard to imagine how that could happen. One of the scenarios is somebody has a bomb that's going to be set off and kill a lot of people. You torture his child, his wife, in front of him. And then as a result, the bomb gets deactivated. And I guess I feel to pull up certain absolute principles. You shouldn't torture. You shouldn't kill innocent people. And I this is why I'm kind of an uneasy utilitarian, which is for the most part, I accept it. And for the most part, utilitarian views in the end converge on deontological views, I think. I think for the most part, these absolute principles are there because adhering to them on balance makes the world a better place. Like, suppose you have a rule, always stop at a red light. That's a total rule. And somebody says, that's ridiculous. I'm a utilitarian. If it's in the middle of the night, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to run through the red light. I'll get home quicker. But the answer to that is, yeah, but what if you always follow the rule? Sometimes it'll be inconvenient for you, but it's so much easier to always follow a rule, and not everybody's as smart as you. And if they thought that it's up to me to decide whether to follow a rule or not, there'd be all sorts of trouble. And I think in some ways the rules converge. It may not be, for instance, a bad rule to live by, saying don't lie to people about important matters. And sometimes that'll make the world worse, but most of the time it's a good rule.
It's really interesting that you think that essentially utilitarianism converges to deontology. I always felt that it was the other way around.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because it feels like, let's say a classic example. You wouldn't want peace on earth if the peace was us sacrificing one child. You just literally, you have to murder it with your own hands even. But it would bring like everlasting peace because it would be tainted in a way. But the reason we have an issue with this, I think, because that's the deontological view, the reason we have an issue with this is that there's going to be some effects down the line that would poison the well for the way that we treat other problems in due time. And that's a utilitarian point of view. So it's not the case that it's just wrong. If we say this happens, but there will be no other consequences. Let's say we do it, and the second it is done, the deed is done, basically we wipe the minds of everybody on Earth, and nobody knows of it. Then does it have an issue if it doesn't leave any trace? Probably not. So the issue is again utilitarian, I think.
No, I would agree with that. I think utilitarianism is sort of more easy to justify. Moral theory, because it's based on some very simple things like pain is bad and pleasure is good. And you can say, oh, I disagree. But for the most part, it just seems easy to follow. Well, deontology is often mysterious. So, Immanuel Kant says, don't masturbate because you're using it. And I go, why not? I just got a really strong feeling here about that. It's really bad. And don't lie. And don't lie, because if everybody lied, we could never communicate. And he said, but I wasn't talking about everybody lying. I'm just going to lie, just occasionally. And Kant says, I still don't like it. And he's
basically a cop.
Yes. We're all cops.
Everybody.
And every moral realist is a cop, and everybody in their heart is a moral realist. We always get in other people's business.
Exactly. And Judge Escal as well. Yeah. So back to a tie-in with some of the like movies and stories in general. What do you think would fit to that idea about utilitarianism, about taking decisions based on what would be good down the line? What would you put in that place as a good example for a movie, do you think?
Well, I just saw the last Mission Impossible movie, Final Reckoning.
Was it possible?
Two thumbs down, way down. It's just a terrible, incoherent lump of a movie. It's
excellent.
You watch the YouTube clips of Tom Cruise running, and that's all you need. But some of the earlier Mission Impossible movies were quite good. And it has a very non-utilitarian message, which they're very explicit about. For about 3 of the movies, there's always a point where somebody comes up to Tom Cruise and says, Ethan Hunt, Ethan, you know something about you? You will never sacrifice a single person to save 1 million people. And Ethan said, yes, that is my moral view. And they say, we are not utilitarians. And they're very blunt about it. It's like, I don't know who makes the movies, but they just got something in their bonnet about utilitarianism. Yeah. And I think Ethan Hunt is wrong. Yeah. I think there's a time where he refuses to sacrifice his friend Luther's life. And as a result, plutonium cores get distributed to terrorists who are going to vaporize the world and so on. Yeah. And the villain says, Ethan, you made a horrible mistake. And I'm with like this is his evil boss, right? And I say, yeah, you made a horrible mistake. Should let Luther die. Even Luther believed this. Luther said, don't save me for this. But we are not natural utilitarians. Our moral views favor, through evolution, the force of evolution, they favor love and loyalty. I have some friends of mine. This is a project led by David Pizarro, who has another competing podcast. Yes,
it's so much competition. It's insane.
He has a paper where he finds that people don't like utilitarians. You describe somebody as a utilitarian, and they say, "What a jerk." And part of the reason, I think, is that when we're not thinking like philosophers, we're thinking like people. We want people to show partiality and preferences. I want my friends to value me over other people. I want my family to love me more than love other people. And the utilitarian is unhappy about this. It says, no.
Or at least uneasy.
Yeah. So at a gut level, and I don't know of any utilitarian, pro-utilitarian movies. Can you think of any?
I'm trying to think, actually. The second I asked you the question, I was like, actually.
There was a movie, I'm not sure how it resolved, called Failsafe.
Failsafe.
And the idea, and this is, by the way, an idea which was repeated in Mission Impossible, the final mission, which is no good, which is there's a nuclear confrontation. And oh yes, the U.S. Accidentally launches a missile attack against Russia. It's a time when there's just Russia and the U.S. Those are the two powers posed against each other. And this is going to start World War III because Russia will feel obliged to respond. And to forestall this, the U.S. president, played by Henry Fonda, I think, in the original movie, says, we have to drop a nuclear bomb over Seattle. I don't know how they got Seattle. Over our own, and that would then even the score. And, okay, that's okay, fantasy case, but here's a real world case. When the Allied forces broke the Enigma code, they got information that the Germans were going to attack a ship, some sort of ship carrying supplies, and it would kill everybody on the ship. And they had this information. They did not stop it from happening. They did not stop it from happening because if they stopped it, the Germans would realize that they had access to the code. They had broken the code.
Yeah, they show their hand.
You make these choices all the time, and I think to be a good person, you have to be utilitarian in at least some of these cases.
I think, especially the example you gave a few minutes ago about the Mission Impossible guy saving his friend, etc. But it also is related not only with what he thinks is correct, but also what is actually doable. I mean, you might know in your heart of hearts that it is correct that you sacrifice yourself or your kids or something in favor of a greater good. You might know it, but it's just impossible to act upon it. I think that's one of the best parts about movies is that, especially problems like the trolley problem and whatever, they're very abstract when served like impartially, but when you see them and there's a character that has the struggles or has the ego and has wants and desires, etc., it's just impossible. And it's all kinds of different pressures which are not necessarily intellectual.
They in some way, I described them before as philosophy, but thinking about what you just said, in some way they're the opposite of philosophy, where good philosophy, like good moral philosophy, tries to abstract away and get the essence of a problem. But what movies do is they make it as tangible and embedded as possible. The trolley in a movie, I say in a philosophy, a runaway trolley will kill 5 people unless you pull switch, then it will kill 1, saving the 5, but you kill the 1 person. But in a movie, the trolley has a color. It makes a certain sound as it goes over the track. Those 5 people, what are they wearing? They're wearing clothes. Are they men? Are they women? And the specifics will often push you to think about it in a very different way.
It's it's. I'm trying to remember. There was an episode, I think, of Black Mirror. Have you seen?
I've seen Black Mirror. I haven't seen the most recent series, but I saw much of it.
Actually just started seeing it with my girlfriend. But we're on the first or second episode of the new series. I'm trying to remember what was exactly the premise.
They have so many good.
But they're really good.
My wife and I were thinking of teaching a course on philosophy, the philosophy and psychology, cognitive science course, basically, built entirely on Black Mirror episodes.
Yeah. Which one would you pick?
Oh, my God. There's so many good ones, but my favorite one is Be Right Back. So Be Right Back in the episode was this woman's husband, our partner, I guess, dies suddenly. And she's bereft with grief, and she's told there's an AI service where she could it uploads all of his digital footprint, which he was on podcasts and everything, a lot of it. And then soon she's talking to a replicant of him and having these conversations and crying. And then they create a robot body and they upload him, so she's with a duplicate of him, and it's a lovely thought experiment.
It was in the attic, right?
Yes, that's right. She kept him in the attic. What's interesting is the character who played the robot, both the boyfriend and of course the robot duplicate of the boyfriend, and his name I'm blanking on. This kind of a redheaded guy was also the main character in the movie Ex Machina. Which is also about robots going out of control.
Oh, that was a lovely movie.
What Black Mirror episode moved you?
A bunch of them. Actually, we've done a series of discussions on Black Mirror episodes. Right now, we're finishing up White Christmas.
That's John Hamm, right?
John Hamm.
Yeah,
it's a 3-parter. So we did one episode for each part of the episode. It's amazing. It's brutal. But beyond that one, which I think it feels like a movie. It's not even. It's much more thick with content. The other one is San Junipero.
That's a very sweet one. I remember.
It's lovely.
Yeah,
it's
that's just beautiful.
I don't know. It felt really nice, and I guess one of the classic ones, Hated in the Nation.
Oh yes.
Which is from the first season, I think. Maybe even the first episode, but that was really nice. In general, that's what they were doing well, even with a bit of a plump and with a bit of going a bit overboard. Yeah, and they're doing it well. Last few seasons,
they've lost it a little bit. I remember the first episode, though, is not that. The first episode was made to be particularly shocking. It's when the prime minister has sex with a pig.
Yeah, that was the first episode. Hated in the Nation. I think it was from the first season, but I haven't seen it in a while. And also, actually, I think like 7 years ago, one of the events that we did on AI and robots was based on one of the episodes in Black Mirror, and then pretty sure it was the one with the dogs. Robot dogs.
Yes.
Black and white one.
What was the company? Boston Robotics.
Boston Dynamics.
Boston Dynamics. There we go.
Yeah.
They created these, I think they're out of business now. They created incredibly creepy robots, and it was based on it. And the idea would be they'd be used as weapons of war.
Yeah.
And
that was really fun.
And we were talking last night. Was it you who have this robot vacuum?
Petko has a robot vacuum.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
He's the affluent one in our organization.
And he has an arm that could pick up stuff. But sooner or later, we're going to have machines, and then one day, they're just going to decide and they're going to kill us.
Definitely. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with them on the reasons.
You think we have it coming?
Well,
you're an accelerationist, are you?
I wouldn't say I'm an accelerationist, but I mean, we've been talking at least in our podcasts and events for the last probably more than 10 years about AI, on mostly alarmist, I guess. I wouldn't say accelerationist.
Let me ask.
I guess it's raining outside. I don't know if.
Wow.
I don't know if our podcast listeners heard this, but it sounded like Russia is invading. Maybe Russia is invading, but we'll figure it out in about 10 minutes.
Well, for the time we have remaining, we'll pretend we're on a date in Silicon Valley. I'll ask you, what's your PDoom? What's your probability that AIs in the near future will kill us all?
It depends what near future is.
10 years.
Close to zero.
Oh, okay. 20 years?
I would put some amount of probability. Depends on kill us all. If it's 100%, I'd go for probably in the hundreds of thousands, hundreds years or up to 1,000 years. I mean, it sounds like it's very likely that an outcome related to, let's say, an AI run amok that can have very direct control of a bunch of systems that we've allowed to be controlled electronically and to have access with robots, etc. I can imagine that this can wipe humanity off the globe. I don't think it's easy because, as you can see, whenever you have a fungal infection, it's really difficult to get rid of, and it's always kind of sticks with you. So I think humanity survives very successfully, and it's very unlikely that it's going to kill everybody. But it's possible, I think, and it's realistic to imagine that it can.
Okay. Or say, if you think 99% or more, then you start to worry. Patches of New Zealand may survive, and
well, I mean, nobody gives a shit about Bulgaria, so I'm just saying.
I like Bulgaria.
Yeah, so maybe.
Also, there's no scenario where everybody else dies in Bulgaria survives. It's geographically, it doesn't seem to work.
Well,
some sort of Bulgarian fantasy. You all say, maybe the AIs will skip us.
I'm voting for Vanuatu and Bulgaria.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the most remote places I can imagine. But no, I mean, I'm being a bit facetious. I think it's likely. I don't know if it will happen. Obviously, it just seems like, at least if we're taking a page from the Bible, because this is a Christian podcast, as we've established already. We seem to be in the image of our Creator. If you go for religious overtones, we and God or gods we've created seem to be really alike. And when we're creating something else, because we've created gods, when we're creating something else, it will have probably very similar flaws as we do. If it's trained on the same kind of culture, if it sees our fears, our strengths, our wants and desires, and see how we go about fulfilling those. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Is going to be a malevolent dictator that makes everybody feel good? It's fucking unlikely.
Yeah, that is a grim possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, in some way, part of it is a little bit of reassurance, which is sometimes when you talk to them about their intelligence or their plans or future bad scenarios, they sound very malevolent and creepy. But it's in part because they've also read all the science fiction stories and they know what the script is and what the powerful AI is supposed to sound like. Of course, that's not much solace if it does decide to kill us, just because that's how the story is supposed to end.
Because it feels good.
It feels good. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you use AI in any of your work for Ratio, for your podcast?
Well, actually, all the time. Since ChatGPT arrived like a year and a half ago, actively, I have at least about an hour of using ChatGPT. Well, I've tried different models as well, but this works really well for me. And right now, I wouldn't say I use it for structuring podcasts, segments into formulating questions, because I have a lot of content that I've accumulated. But most of the best use cases I have is at my actual job, because it's really useful to provide summaries, structure stuff, especially for something that's a really big document, and you have the competence to be able to analyze it, but you do not have the same amount of time. And it's insanely good for this. It's just I wouldn't be able to do all the things that I'm doing right now without ChatGPT. Yeah, it's just a thing.
Yeah, it's transformative in some ways. I use it a lot for work. It's basically replaced Google for me now, because the searching is much smarter.
Close.
Sometimes you want Google because you want to double check whether something really exists as a hallucination. What I have found, and I'm not alone in this, a lot of my friends have found this too, which is for medical things. You, an elderly relative, like something like that, you feed it in blood test results, MRIs, doctors' reports, and it gives you wonderful, clear advice. And, I would never go, have an operation because my LLM told me to, but when you're corresponding with a doctor, after, and you first put in all the reports and get the LLM to respond, you know so much more.
Oh, yeah.
And, someone puts you in such a better position to evaluate your options. And more than once, I've told a doctor, well, I've heard that there's this other treatment. Or I've heard there's a drug interaction. I said, I didn't know that. I'll check that out. The trick is you must never tell them you got it through AI because then they get upset.
Yeah, well, you can imagine why. I mean, it's basically the same issue we used to have with Google, but on steroids. You go on PubMD.
That's right. I Googled my thing, yes.
Yeah, and doctors are like, Jesus fucking. But right now, the game is a bit different in the sense that there's a lot of really well-structured data related to medical studies, and based on that data, you can have a synopsis, and that's what they're doing. That's essentially what they're good at. And being a medical doctor in any profession, just keeping up with all of all the content, I think is essentially close to impossible. I know some doctors who are amazing at this, but again, he's human. I mean, I treat this as an enhancement. I mean, I can imagine that a well-trained professional with an AI can provide much better quality service. Even just when you look at bedside manner and having more time to actually be a doctor and not be an administrative guy.
That's right. So a lot of times you sit with a doctor and you say, hey, have you heard of this new sleeping pill? And the doctor says, I'll Google it, types into their phone. Nothing wrong with that. They can't know everything all the time. But, and you could view LLMs like that, where a good doctor will use LLM as a sort of to supplement his or her diagnoses and decisions over treatment. The data suggests that LLMs do better than doctors for a lot of studies. It might be, here's the skeptical view, which is LLM alone may be better than LLM plus doctor. I mean, here's an analogy.
In diagnostics. But I mean, in the full service.
Oh, in the full service, you probably want a human. Yeah. Who else is going to tell you can't afford a treatment? So
exactly.
Right.
Oh, your insurance doesn't cover it.
Come in for your appointment between 1 and 6 on a Tuesday. I'll be there sometime. So you need a special care that only a human could provide.
It could make you feel like a piece of shit.
That's right. That's right. Have you thought of losing weight?
Well, you should. But I mean, while we're on the topic of killer robots and LLMs, etc. I mean, do you think we can, or do you think we should attribute some of the characteristics we've been attributing to humans up until this conversation so far? Like, can you imagine an evil LLM? Can you imagine that, let's say, an AI could be evil? I mean, even if, let's say, the AI has like a prime directive where it says, well, I have to kill all humans because it's much more effective, like a paperclip optimizer scenario or something. But do you think it could be evil?
At this point, no. At this point, it's like, you pick up a gun and you shoot people. And it's the gun evil.
I don't, at least. But
one does. One might. Yes. Or, I don't know, my thermostat gets confused and then roasts me alive or something. I don't know why I thought of that example. It's just a strange example. But
it could be a sous vide.
I'm in a sous vide. I put a plastic around myself and jump into a sous vide and I roast it alive. I bet nobody's ever said that before.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I don't think so. At this point, I think you could legitimately talk about LLMs, AIs as thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think what they do is indistinguishable from thinking. Yeah. But they lack sentience, they lack consciousness, as best we could tell. And as such, and they, I don't think they, I mean, as I'm saying it now, I don't think you need consciousness to be evil. But I think they lack other things. They lack the capacities to develop their own goals. They may have moral knowledge in a descriptive way. They're pretty good at saying what's good and what's bad if you ask them. But I don't think it has the same flavor as moral knowledge in a person. But as I'm talking about this, I realize I'm not entirely sure to answer your question. What do you think?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the consciousness bit. I don't think something could be, from my point of view, evil without agency and consciousness. Actually, I think agency is probably the more important bit here. If it cannot be independent and it can impose its will based on its wants and desires, I don't think it can be evil, because it's just a series of processes. That's why if we step aside for a second, if we imagine a deterministic universe when there's no free will, that cannot be evil. So back to LLMs, I guess. If they have autonomy, but they're not conscious, I suppose they could be evil.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's difficult to imagine, because it really depends on how much weight you put on consciousness as well, and what kind of work it does, and do you relate it with autonomy as well.
So what about consciousness? You don't think current LLMs are conscious, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. Like how could you know? It doesn't seem to me like the kind of thing that could be conscious. I don't think you need a brain to be conscious. I think you could be run on silicon or whatever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's something that a program running on my MacBook Pro, the idea that it has consciousness, sentience, real feelings, seems to me to be nuts.
Yeah, but it could be a case of just intuitions.
Yes.
We've created a heuristic out of millions of years of looking at things that move, and now there's something else that moves in a very fucked up way in a data center.
Yeah.
So I mean, you go through the definition of what consciousness is, and good fucking luck with that. I mean, just trying to define consciousness, I think, is really difficult. I mean, you can go, what it's like to be a bat, the whole thing, the whole experience of consciousness. I'm on board all of that, but I cannot imagine a way in which we can gauge whether something is conscious, and when the lights are on and when they're not. I mean, where do we do it for animals? Is a mouse conscious? Oh, I think so. I mean, is like a grasshopper? Oh, probably not. Or like a bacteria. Where is consciousness on that whole spectrum? What kind of qualia does that have? Okay, fine now.
Yeah. I think we're saved a little bit by the fact that I think a good theory of consciousness will allow it to come in degrees. So I would say that probably mouse has less consciousness than a human, and a grasshopper less conscious than a mouse. But the problem doesn't go away, because I think that right now LLMs have no consciousness, not the slightest. They're no different than toasters or guns or thermostats. But
you're not a panpsychist, then.
I'm not a panpsychic. Some of my best friends, I know people who think, everything's infused with consciousness, but I don't think the universe works that way. But sooner or later, they're going to get, if trends continue, they're going to get better and better. They might ultimately take on physical form when you get robotics going. And then I'll be dealing with a person who looks a lot like you and sounds like you and having a conversation with me. And then because of evolution, we'll say, oh, that's conscious. But can we know? I don't know. And I don't know how we could.
It feels like feelings are also like a critical point in consciousness. I don't know if you agree. Because feelings and basically the feedback that we get from the environment and just
so physical embodiment.
Exactly. So if we can imagine that AIs, let's not focus necessarily just on LLMs, but basically AI models that can take into account a lot of data points can not only use pre-made data, but also have direct access to the physical world with sensors, with cameras, etc. And when we also look at, let's say, the power that they use in data centers, if there's not enough power, not enough storage, or not enough whatever, you could see this as some form of a proprioception. I mean, if it's lacking something and it's being inhibited of completing a task by not having enough space or not being able to get that information, maybe it's blind, maybe it's deaf, maybe it hurts. Maybe. Because I don't think there's anything special in the way that that we interpret the world with those feelings that we get. I mean, right now when I do like this, it's nothing more special than me just pressing against my skin, and there's nerve endings that feel the pressure, etc., etc. There's nothing magical about that.
No.
And it could be the case that it's just as unmagical for AIs who will be able to access such feelings, that would be able to have some, I don't know, something happens that would be able to produce consciousness.
I mean, there's a couple of different things you're talking about here. One is the access to the senses, and to some extent we already have that. Like I could open up my chat GPT on my phone, give it access to the camera and access to the microphone, and there it could see and it can hear.
Yeah.
But then you're also talking about things like homeostasis, like things like having a body and having needs for the body, and it might
having
be
boundaries also.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Right now, it has no boundaries.
Yeah.
It is in the cloud.
Exactly. I think that's very unclear. Once, I think a part of the issue would be in a situation like Ex Machina, because in Ex Machina you have the AI, it's embodied, and it's in the same game that we are. It's surviving.
Yeah.
It's playing the game of evolution.
Yeah.
And then I think most of the other things come into play. I think maybe even consciousness. Why not?
I mean, this is a point that Steve Pinker has made, which is he's very much not a doomer. And he says that the mistake people make is they analogize LLMs to how would they behave, what would they want. But they, and every other animal around, has been a product of natural selection, evolved to survive and reproduce. That's their fundamental. Everything else rests on that. LLMs aren't. They're just sort of number crunchers, statistical machines. But if you were to make them such, I think you have both opportunities, because it make them more powerful, like give them consciousness at some level, but also make them more dangerous. You wouldn't want an LLM that desperately didn't want to die. Because, the Yudkowsky, the doomer claim is, the second it doesn't want to die, it'll recognize that there's only one other creature that could shut it off, and then it might act first. And that'd be kind of scary. Although not in Bulgaria, but it would wipe out the rest of humanity.
Specifically. Yeah. I don't know. It's really weird. You mentioned Yudkowsky. I'm on a bunch of points on the same page with him. But there's something that makes me just disagree with him on a principle level. It's not rational, even though the name of the fucking thing is ratio.
So I thought it was, by the way, ratio, like Twitter. Like, you post something and you have 1 million responses, you have a high ratio.
No,
but it's rational,
ratio.
from rational.
Yeah.
Much better.
Actually, Bogoi, who was here earlier, was the guy who came up with the name, because we were thinking of much more complicated names years ago. It was like Rationalica or something, funky. And he said,
that's Rationalica.
Yeah. He's like, nah, guys, it's gonna be this one. It's gonna be
that was a good choice.
Ratio. Yeah, it was. So anyway, what I was saying about. For example, Yudkowsky, I'm not shitting on the guy or anything, but it's just the way that he delivers the message, or his ideas, etc., makes it so unpalatable to me. Even though I agree with a bunch of his points and with some amount of his alarmism, etc., but it just makes it undoable for me. I get off that train immediately once he starts talking. I don't know what it is about communication that makes it so weird to be able to get on board with somebody.
He's an interesting guy. I mean, plainly a genius. Plainly impassioned about it in a way I think some people aren't.
It's obvious.
I don't think he's a good communicator about these issues. maybe he's so much smarter than the rest of us that it just
he
goes,
does
goes
look
over
much
our
smarter. Yeah, he does look, even with the hat.
The fedora, he loses a bit of IQ points that way.
I think, yeah, it's.
I become interested in doomers who and asking the question: if you're a doomer and you believe the world's going to end soon, your behavior should accord with that. You shouldn't save for your college education. You shouldn't put extra money if you had a crime. And I'm curious about how many doomers are consistent in that way. But I would bet Yudkowsky is. He seems to really be serious about this.
Yeah, maybe. Well, Paul, it seems we've reached 1 hour mark in talks about Yudkowsky, AI, evil, and everything else.
Yeah, movies, a lot of movies.
Just as a final bit, what would you recommend from some of the, again, following our teams with movies and with interesting content that would be interesting to advise on different philosophical points or ethical problems? What would you recommend as a top quality content for people?
Movies?
Yeah, books.
Books, no.
Books.
Who reads of course, books? My books, all of them. Best spot in the hardcover and multiple copies. But I think by law everybody should be required to watch the movie Her. And if you've seen it, see it again.
It's great.
It is wonderful.
What was the name of the actor with the mustache?
Oh my God. I'm totally blanking. He was in. He's the guy from Joker, right?
Yeah. It will. I will check it out.
Joaquin Phoenix. No, Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
No, is that right?
Yeah, I think it was Joaquin. Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
This is the best mustache.
That is a good mustache.
Yes.
But we remember it for Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah.
Because I've heard many people say, "Oh, AIs are such bullshit. You're only like somebody who's really lonely or really stupid could ever fall for it." And maybe that's true right now, but for the future, when he falls in love with her, and so do we. So I have everybody watch Her. I would have everybody watch Christopher Nolan's movie The Prestige.
Yeah.
Which is a wonderful movie on personal identity, and beautifully acted, beautifully written. So those two are really good stuff.
Nolan in general is with very few misses.
Very few, some misses. I found Tenet unwatchable.
Yeah.
But and then for books, I'm a fan of Steve Pinker's books on cognitive science and the mind and so on. I think he tends to get things right.
How about some fiction? I mean, or do you read mostly nonfiction?
No, I read a lot of fiction. Fiction that's sophisticated in the way we're talking about. I like Ian McEwan.
Oh, okay.
He has a great book called Machines Like Me, which is it takes place in a fictionalized version of 1980s London, where they have robots, commercially available robots, and he explores that. He often explores these themes. His book Solar, which is very funny, is a book about a Nobel Prize winner who goes awry and has all these affairs and steals ideas from people and so on. And it's a wonderful satirical commentary on science. Enduring Love, which was made into a movie with Daniel Craig, is about, among other things, science writing. And the quest to how do you write about science well. Nobody remembers it for that. So I would, the quick response to fiction would be Ian McEwan. We talked about science fiction worlds before. Have you read the Culture novels by Ian M. Banks?
No, I haven't.
So that might be a recommendation too. That's a very different kind of future.
Nice. I will definitely check them out.
Thank you for having me on. This was a blast.
It's absolutely lovely having you here. And let's go get some coffee.
Excellent.
See you guys.